Hot. The heat is on. We're getting into a special interview right here on Hot, as earlier announced. So Wednesday is the 15th of July, 2026, and welcome to this special edition of the Red Hot Breakfast. We are live from Hot Media House in Long Acres, Lusaka, and transmitting to the rest of the country. For the first time, Zambia gets to hear from the two boys. We have Honorable Brian Mundibile and Honorable Makebi Zulu, who are running on the National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity ticket as president and running mate, respectively. Now, with 29 games to go, the two boys, as President Hichilema often refers to them, have emerged as the strongest challenger to President Hichilema's quest for a second term. And this morning, they will be sharing their grand vision for Zambia and speaking to some of the issues they have picked up on a demanding campaign trail they have been on. Allow me to welcome our two guests this morning, Honorable Mundibile and Honorable Makebi Zulu. Good morning and welcome to the Red Hot Breakfast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're happy to be here this morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Now, the way your campaign has unfolded over the last few months is nothing short of a phenomenon. It's catapulted you to right in pole position as far as the opposition is concerned. Did you expect this strong wave? Let's start with you, Honorable Mundi.
Well, of course, like you rightly put it, the response from the people is overwhelming as to whether we expected it. To some extent, but of course, the numbers that we're getting out there have completely exceeded our expectation. The support that we received from the Zambian people, from the 5 provinces we visited, has simply been overwhelming.
And Honorable Zulu.
It's been quite humbling experience looking at people express themselves, and I think it's beyond personalities. It's not about myself or President Mundibile. It's a reflection of people's hopes for change. The people seem to be in dire straits, and they're looking for a way out. And perhaps we'll say God, in His infinite wisdom, made it be the way it is because no one expected things to be the way they are right now. At the beginning of the campaigns, the UPND were saying there is no opposition. We insisted at any given time that it does not have to be any one of us. It's the Zambian people that are the opposition, and they're expressing that in the way they come out. They're not being transported anywhere. They're coming, and the messaging that we're putting across is resonating very well with them. So it's a very humbling experience, we must say, and we are humbled to want to live by what the Zambians really want. Yeah.
Let's spend some time, a bit of time on your track records. For those unaware, how do your individual public service records help, prepare you to lead Zambia? For instance, for Honorable Mundibile, apart from parliamentary duties, you served as chair of the ERB, and Zambia has plenty of challenges in the energy sector. How does that experience help you if you become head of state?
Well, first of all, when you look at the track record, you made reference to the time that I served as parliamentary government chief whip, for instance.
Yes.
I served also as a minister. I was also leader of opposition. Before that, I chaired quite a number of boards. ERP was one of them. You'd be interested to know that I served on the ZDA board for about 6 years, and I was chairing one of the committees. So what that does, it gives one some expose, first of all, to know how government functions. And when you look at it, you're looking at it from the good governance point of view, in this particular case. You come to how parliament functions, you come to how government works. So it's all rounded. And all these experiences have greatly assisted me in understanding how government works. So understanding how government works from the private sector and also from the public sector, having been deeply involved, for instance, in the boards, and also having been involved in cabinet and having been heavily involved in the parliament. So it's an all-rounded experience as it were.
All right. So how does your experience now, how will it speak into the challenges that, Zambia faces in the energy sector? If you're elected as president, how do you plan on, sorting out the challenges that we have? And I'll highlight a few. The biggest one, obviously, being load shedding, the energy sector that the country has experienced. And the other has been the biggest debate, has been the pump prices. After the UPND took office, we have a new way of pricing in this country. We have monthly reviews where the prices change every month. What's your plan as far as energy is concerned, whether petroleum or electricity?
Yes, first of all, if you look at the experience I got in the energy sector, we'll start with power. My experience at the ERB would indicate that, first of all, I appreciate how much power we need as a country. I also appreciate our generation capacity. Therefore, it's very easy to plan between the two. You know that we have been generating up to 1,600 megawatts from independence right up to maybe 2011. Through the time of the PF, their capacity was doubled to about 3,400. The national consumption is around about 2,000 megawatts. So clearly you would have excess of over 1,000 megawatts as it were. So when you look at the load shedding that we went through, I want to say it without any apology, that was unjustified. So there are two things there that you need to look at. Yes, there was an issue of drought. So when you look at the interaction between the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Energy, there would be a pre-alert that where we are going in the next couple of months, we may experience a drought. So what is expected are the measures that you immediately take. I'll give you an example. If we predict that within a year we're going to have a drought, you can start load shedding in January, just for 1 hour, quietly. The consumers won't even notice. Okay? So you go through the difficult period without any problem at all. So even previous, we used to go through this difficult time, but because of proper planning, the load shedding would start very early, maybe 8 months before the actual drought hits. So by load shedding, you are reducing your generation. And by reducing your generation, you are preserving water. That's simply what it is. So there's no magic about that. If you reduce your generation, you preserve your water. So in difficult times, in drought times, you still have your water, enough to generate power to supply your people. So it's a question of priority. With the UPND government, there was no issue of drought. Forget about that. It was just a question of priority. Number one, the time they were generating at full capacity in Parliament, we warned them. We warned them. These droughts, if you follow the trend, they come almost every 4 years. So it's something you're able to predict. It won't come as a surprise. President Hakainde Hichilema would call it the worst drought in the region. That cannot be the worst drought in the region. It was a partial drought. The northern part of the region did not experience that drought. So clearly there was a lot of exaggeration around it, and there was a lot of carelessness on the part of the UPND. They just didn't plan for it, or maybe it was not their priority, because the priority was to export power. So I'll come to your question as what are our plans? The only way out, first of all, is to ensure that we generate enough power, supply enough power locally to local businesses and all the consumers locally before we think of exporting. Exporting is attractive because it brings in foreign exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we have to look at investment first. If you look at the northern region, we've got Lumangwe. Lumangwe has got capacity of up to 240 megawatts. When you go to Lufugu in Nsama, there is capacity potential of about 150. So give and take, there's another 650 megawatts from the northern region alone, in addition to what is being generated. So if we operationalize the investment, actualize the investments in the northern part, we'll go over 4,000, 5,000 megawatts as it were. And the local consumption will only go slightly over 2,000. So you still have a lot to even export. So to solve these problems, we must know that from time to time we will experience problems. If as a country we enter into any agreements, we must be very clear that in times when generation is low, we make sure that the domestic supply is kept constant. Because this is where we are. This is where our voters are. This is where our people are. We can't afford to collapse local businesses, just to promote export, as it were. So, as regards the energy sector, the plan is to generate more power. There's still a lot of potential on hydro, but going forward, we also have to promote thermal generation. What is sustainable is actually the thermal power through coal and other forms of energy. Because then the challenges of drought will not come in. So advanced countries will rely more on coal plants than they would on hydro dams, as it were. So the mix between the hydro and the thermal is really what our best mix would be going forward. If we're going to increase our supply to the mines, Zambia plans to go up to 3 million tons, of copper production, as it were. Clearly, when those pronouncements were made, there was no reference at all to the investment in the energy sector that would support that sort of. Yeah. So in our case, we are saying let's look at the potential in the hydro, but we'll lean more on the thermal because it's more sustainable and won't have sudden shocks, as it were. As regards the petroleum subsector, we opposed the closing of Indeni. I would still oppose it. That facility is very, very important. The use of the pipeline is very, very important. The use of that refinery, or call it a separator, whatever it is. What is required there is further investment so that it's able to break and refine crude oil. So the advantage that we have by running in Indeni and maintaining the pipeline is that it gave us a buffer of about 90 days. You will have enough stock such that if there are any disturbances in the oil producing countries, we will not get the shocks like we've experienced the past few months. So focusing on finished product has been a very big challenge. That's why you see that the situation became price sensitive. There are two fundamentals that influence the price of fuel. One, international oil prices. The second one is exchange rate. So they're both very sensitive. So if you don't have a buffer, you sometimes may have to change prices. In other countries, they change prices every day. The price that you buy fuel in the morning is the same price in the evening, as it were. And we're slowly heading there. Yeah, so the use of Indeni, the use of the pipeline has got to be restored. That's what gives us the real security. And as a matter of fact, we need to build a number of additional facilities in the provinces. Yeah, quite a number that you find in Mongu, Mpinga, Kasama. Yeah, we needed more storage facilities such that if we had up to 6 months recover in terms of the buffer stock, then we're very safe. So pretty much, if for instance there's instability in Iran, you would not immediately panic because you are 6 months away before you can declare an emergency, as it were.
How long would it take to make those extra storage facilities?
No, it won't take long. Actually, the private sector can participate. The private sector are very ready and eager to invest in these facilities.
As a matter of fact, some already exist
Exactly. Some of them are actually
during the time of the Patriotic Front.
Yes.
Eastern Province has most of the provinces do have storage facilities for that matter. I just thought I should add that, Mr. President.
Yeah. So basically, I think that's we were discussing the experience that I got by being at TRB and how we use that experience to try and improve how the energy sector works. So we've tackled the electricity subsector and of course the petroleum subsector. That's one way in which I think that experience would benefit the nation.
What about you, Honorable Zulu? Your track record. What makes your track record?
It's very difficult to beat your own drum and dance and dance to it. But I would say this: The sector that I am in, perhaps the legal fraternity, I think it has been a place that has shaped me and how I look at issues, how I respond to issues. It is structural issues, procedural issues, administrative issues that are of great concern. I must say at this stage that the president and I have a very long history, way before the politics. We've known each other from that time. And beyond what he has said, I know it's very difficult for him to blow his own trumpet as to what he brings to the table and how that it would work in the government. We were both provincial ministers. He was a provincial minister in the north. I was provincial minister in Eastern Province. And obviously we would interface as provincial ministers from time to time. And the way provinces run is simply a microcosm of what government is like. You supervise all the ministries that are in the province. So it's like you're running a government. And I remember the time we were preparing for our expos. He did a great job. Himself, Bachilangwa, we all looked up to them to really shape how it was going to be done because they were first to do those expos. And they were very successful in attracting investment in their particular provinces. And we learned from himself and Honorable Chilangwa how exactly it would be done. So that in itself was a very big plus. But whilst we were still ministers, we had a conversation. I remember at one point I was saying I think I need to do my master's in constitution and administrative law. He says, yeah, when do you start? I said, I intend to start in June. He says, let's go. So we enrolled for constitutional and administrative law together, and we went through it together and graduated. So the idea was, if we are going to be in government, procedural law, constitutional law, these will be the foundation as to how you're going to run your government. You need a government that respects the constitution, and you need a constitution that responds to the needs of the people, not the needs of politicians. So if you're going to have structural problems, you have governance issues like we have right now, where there's no respect for the constitution. The constitution is amended not to fit the needs and desires of the Zambians, but to make room or political space for politicians. That is not as it should be. Institutions of governance have to be independent. We expect commissions to be independent. Look at how the Anti-Corruption Commission has been abused. The Drug Enforcement Commission has been abused. Human rights commissions have been abused. The civil service has been abused. The police have been abused. And this is because we have depended on good people to be in government instead of creating institutions that are strong enough to guide both the good and the bad that may be in government. We need respect for the rule of law in the literal sense, not just as rhetoric like we have experienced in the last 5 years. And for that reason, I think we are well equipped because of our legal background to know that what we need to do is have a structural change. And that structural change begins with the constitution. We need to amend our constitution, a holistic amendment that responds to the needs of the Zambians, that enhances the rights of the Zambians, that introduces a human rights approach towards development. You can't have a government that says, we have given you water, it's a favor. It should not be a favor. It should be a right that Zambians have to claim. And we have seen how that a lot of freedoms have been eroded from the Zambians, like the freedom of speech. You can't have a subsidiary law or that exceeds what the constitution provides. These cyber laws that have been introduced, seditious practices, hate speech, which only apply to a particular segment of the society and does not apply to another. We need all these structural changes, and I think the legal background that we have enables us to look at issues of constitutionalism, rule of law, and having very strong institutions of governance.
But one would say that the cyber laws were started, they came from the time of the Patriot Front.
Okay, so if you're going to compare the two,
how do you come back and complain
okay,
about a law that started under the Patriot Act.
If you're going to compare the two, the cyber law as was introduced by the Patriotic Front, which was repealed and replaced by these cyber laws that have been put in place by the UPND, you will notice that there's a very big difference. Whereas they complained that the issue of cyberbullying was going to stifle the need for Zambians to express themselves. That was their main complaint. And having undertaken that would be the first law they would repeal. When they introduced that Cyber Crimes Act, it got to be far worse than what they complained of. We have had more prosecutions under this law in targeting politicians, targeting citizens, and that has called most of the citizenry into being quiet, into being silent. It's for that reason that even when you notice at all our rallies, when that issue is brought up, the response that we get from the people is such that they know that their voices have not been heard. It's for that reason that the UPND probably thought there was no opposition, because they shut people up. Democracy, like Pukulu said, is a marketplace of ideas. And if ideas are not expressed, then you don't expect society to grow, or society to differentiate or indeed get feedback from the people. You will not be able to get that. So the argument that yes, it may have started during PF does not necessarily make it right if at all it's stifled the rights of the people. And as lawyers, we're committed to ensuring that firstly, we restore the rights back to our people so that they're free and able to express themselves. Only then shall we have inclusive democracy that takes into account all opinions that are expressed. So those are some of the things and issues that we hope to bring to the table.
Honorable Zulu, when you say that, what do you mean? Do you mean that you repeal the current cyber laws, will go back to the old way? Are we going back to the old law, or have no laws whatsoever governing the cyberspace?
Firstly, when you're going to deal with the cyberspace, what exactly are you trying to deal with when it comes to the cyberspace? I think the main issues for concentrating on are issues of hacking or scamming or anything that tends to amount to a criminal offense. That tends to deprive or maybe unlawful access to information, things of that sort. You want that law to be there. But when it comes to the freedom to express oneself, that should not be a subject that should go into cyber laws. We have sufficient laws. If I am going to say something about you, okay, I think it is only fair that you take up, if it's defamatory, you take up that as a defamatory action, a civil action. Government should not have an issue to come in and punish people for expressing themselves. I'll give you a typical example. In Katete, there were these ladies that were sharing fertilizers and seed in medals and cups. And someone filmed that event, and they were expressing themselves. They were saying, this is how we're receiving our fertilizers. This is what exactly is going on. We never used to live like this. The next thing, they were arrested. Okay? It is not only those that were speaking that were arrested. It is also the person who was taking the video who was arrested under the cyber law. And that defies all logic. Why should that law be used to silence dissent? We are saying that cyber laws should not be used to silence dissent, simply put. And if at all there will be cyber laws, because we are committed to repealing this draconian law that the UPND have put in, it will be a thing of the past. And that's a commitment that we have made, that we are going to repeal the cyber laws and restrict cyber laws to dealing with issues that protect the integrity of the cyberspace in terms of access to information, because what the law that we have right now is very intrusive. You will notice that as regards this same cyber law, the American embassy had issued a warning, and they warned their would-be investors from America to say, this government is overreaching, in essence, in that they want access to all the information that you have. Right now, in this place, you have a saver. you have all these computers. The law is such that Zambia, ZICTA, or indeed the government must have access to what you have on your server. They want to have access to that. If you have any storage system, they want to have access to your storage system. Just recently, there was this CCTV Act where they want to control where you put your CCTV. You put CCTV at your house, you must register, tell them what system you are using for your CCTV. They must know the system that you are using for your CCTV. What is the essence of that? This which you have sometimes you have it indoors. What is the essence of them having the ability to hack into your system? That is unlawful. That is overreaching. That is not respecting the rights of Zambians. And those should be things of the past. Let's protect people's privacy. Let's protect people's right to express themselves. Let's protect people's rights to move around. Let's protect the right for people to have opinions and express those opinions.
How long should the Zambian people give you, if elected into office, to repeal this particular law? Because we have conversations like this. When you're in opposition, brilliant ideas, brilliant minds, and commitments. Honorable Munduwini, you are president and presidential candidate for the NRPUP. What's your commitment? How long should the Zambians give you to repeal this draconian law as you have described?
Like the Vice President said, we actually discovered this is one of the biggest problems Zambians have today, these oppressive laws. I think we were somewhere in Chama, and we talked about a whole crowd exploding into celebration that we're going to repeal this. So this is urgent. Unlike what we are seeing now, we will not leave these amendments to the very end. The moment we get into government, the consultation process starts immediately. I mean, these are soft
Low-hanging fruits, yeah.
These are low-hanging fruits. It doesn't need to wait. We made the commitment, we made an undertaking to the Zambian people, and we know how these particular laws have affected the Zambian people. Remember, colleagues, I think the basis for everything between us, myself and the Vice President, is that we're going to take a human rights approach to development. So by the very fact that this particular law oppresses our citizens, it's very urgent that we look at it the moment we get into government. We begin the legislative process the moment we settle.
What about the constitutional amendment? How long will it take? What's the timeline for that? Because the Vice President, your running mate, talked about amending the Constitution. How long will you do that?
Well,
what's the timeline?
Himself and I are constitutional legal scholars, and we understand the importance of broad consultation. So, meaning we start very early also. Okay, there are several processes through which this will be done. The number one is to raise awareness amongst the people. You'll be interested to know that there are times when people have been debating about constitutional amendments, when they don't really appreciate and understand what that really is. So the first step is to raise awareness amongst the citizens. Then we do some public education. What is a constitution? What is expected to be in the constitution? That is very important. Remember, the consensus that we talk about in constitution making is not bipartisan consensus where a ruling party in the opposition sit and agree. We talk about general consensus, meaning that we have to go down to rural areas. We sit down about and they need to appreciate what needs to be in the constitution. The time they'll be submitting to that process, they'll be submitting to a process they fully understand.
Exactly.
So we would like to go through it that way.
What's the duration?
The Constitutional Court did give that guidance in the last ruling as regards Bill 7, which was ignored by the UPND. The need for broad consultation is a constitutional fundamental. And the very fact that we have a judgment from the court that gives guidance as to how exactly you deal with it is really guiding. And to address your question as to issues of timeline, I think the issue of the Constitution is very important because it's an issue that is going to shape the governance system. And what we are saying is that we have to press the reset button. And immediately we form government, the first order of business, that discussion must be had as to how we're going to amend the constitution. We've been to the chiefs. They complain about how the chieftaincy is being perceived, or how the law affecting the chieftaincy, land issues relating to traditional land, how they are dealt with, development issues, how they are not benefiting from the resources that may be in their localities. All those issues are issues of structure, and structure as to how a government is run is in the constitution. Beyond just having a constitution, we would like to leave a legacy where we have set the law straight in terms of how our governance system should be run. No more should the civil service be politicized by reason of loopholes that may be in the constitution. No more should the police be politicized by reason of those that are serving by their own whims and caprices. No more should we have commissions, including the office of the public protector, not being operationalized because someone is taking advantage of loopholes that may be in the constitution. No more should we run away from decentralization, which is in the constitution, merely because someone wants to have full control of councils and everything else. We need to have institutions that are regulated by the law, such that they do not depend on good people being in government. So that would be the first order of business.
All right. Well, if you just tuned in, we have Honorable Brian Munduvide and Honorable Makebi Zulu, who are running on the National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity, NRPUP ticket, as president and running mate, respectively. Now, throughout this campaign, which has been mostly land-based throughout your campaign, well, we'll get to the issue of why you're not been able to fly during your campaigns. But what kind of stories are you picking up from ordinary Zambians as you traverse the length and breadth of this country?
Yes, number one, just like we have been discussing, Zambians have been very concerned about the oppressive laws. These cyber laws remain a major concern for most Zambians. Most Zambians feel oppressed. Number two is the high cost of living. Number three, the issues of health delivery. You know that NEMA has collapsed completely. And in many places where we've been, this is a major complaint. Of course, number four is an issue of infrastructure, accessibility, road infrastructure in many parts, as it were. Issues of free education, much as the citizens appreciate free education, they've been very concerned with the manner and form that it takes. You have an average of 150, 160 pupils in the class, and teachers are unable to properly communicate or teach. So there's been issues of infrastructure around the schools to try and reduce the number of pupils in classrooms. Of course, to deliver free and quality education, you must have a motivated workforce. Our teachers, especially those that are working in rural schools, have been facing serious challenges as regards accommodation. Yeah, so these are some of the issues that we've picked up. The agriculture sector, the distribution of inputs has been a major issue. You know that from the PF time, the time we were both ministers, the last I remember we distributed 6,000 of fertilizers per farmer. Now farmers are getting fertilizers in medals. Medals will be a little bucket, and that is common everywhere. And the farmers have not taken it light. You know that the small scale farmers are the ones that are responsible for food security. So in many cases, we discover that the agriculture sector has actually collapsed. When you look at FISIP, the distribution of buckets called medals. If you go to Eastern Province and you look at the cotton farmers, that's the cotton farmers' business has completely collapsed. Soya beans farmers completely collapsed. We had started projects to do with cassava right across the country. There's nothing to talk about. Yeah, so we are finding all these challenges. Luckily, when you look at the manifesto that we have, most of these challenges were addressed in our manifesto. So we were able to respond very quickly to some of these challenges. So our campaign messages were not general. We would go in a day before and appreciate exactly what challenges people be facing in that particular area. And we go back to our manifesto to try and see whether we have challenges. You look at small-scale miners. Our small-scale miners have really suffered. People that have been mining gold. You remember the Kikonge story. People died. Our youths died in Kikonge. You come down to Chingola, at the Black Mountain. A number of our youths have lost their income, because the big players, the big boys, the politicians took over most of those dump sites. We have people coming in the name of investors and they are after dump sites. We have said no, and we are not apologizing. I said those dump sites are going back to the youths. We promote investment and we want our investors to come, but we want them to go to greenfield mines. We will assist them, to settle in greenfield projects. Those dump sites will be controlled by our youths. Most of our youths remain unemployed. Unemployment levels are over 20%. And the successive governments always gave those dump sites to the youths in times that governments were unable to provide employment to them. So we are going to go further. We will not only allow them to mine from those dump sites. We are going to run some clinics for them. We will run some incubation programs for them. We train them in safe mining. We're going to train them in environmental protection. But at the same time, we will put them in cooperatives where we are able to assist them. We will not leave them to the wolves where they can't even properly market what they're getting. Throughout the sectors, we are running an aggregation program. In all these programs, we have an aggregator, whether in the agricultural sector, in the mining sector. So this is a big brother who is waiting to, for instance, get whatever they're mining. Now, this big brother is not only getting what they're mining, he goes further. He extends assistance by way of equipment. Let's take Zambia Gold. This is the company that was formed the time PF was in government. It was supposed to basically be there to buy gold wherever it was found. So through Zambia Gold, we will be able to extend help to small-scale miners at Kikonge. These small-scale miners are in cooperatives. Maybe between 5 cooperatives, Zambia Gold could provide 2 excavators, 1 excavator, and the other equipment that they require. They will pay for it progressively so that there is enough capacity to give to the next group and the next cooperative. The idea really there is that you are looking at the issue of control, you are looking at the issue of security. Government concern normally has been that you have 5,000 people in an area. There is money, there are loose guns and so on. But once there's some structured approach, Zambia Gold moves in. They've got offices there. Ministry of Mines has got offices there. We've got health facilities nearby. And the miners are identified by cooperatives. They are assisted that way. So it will be no more mining. When they mine, they take to the aggregator. At the end of the day, the Bank of Zambia will be talking about reserves in form of gold. This is what is happening in other jurisdictions. They will move into Kanyerere and Impika. They will come into Rufunza. So clearly, we were in Rufunza yesterday.
Yes, yesterday when
there's an economy that exists. Unfortunately, because the government that is in power now does not focus on Zambia. They are very excited to give incentives to foreign entities, as it were. The first thing they do when they hear there's been a discovery of gold is to mobilize trucks of soldiers, trucks of Zambia National Service and police to go and chase our youth. That will never happen under our charge.
To exterminate and eradicate.
That will never happen. That language will never be used in our government. What we will do instead is to promote these activities by our youth, to ensure that they lead decent lives. You remember when you go through our manifesto, we actually talk about formalizing small-scale mining. That's exactly what we mean. We mean there will be offices, government offices, that will specifically take care of these miners, hold them by their hand and walk them through until they can work on their own. That will be the work of government, insofar as small-scale mining is concerned.
Just a quick one there, Honorable Mundwe, because right now, when you go to these illegal dump sites, and if you talk about formalization, meaning somebody at the end of the day will have to pay some sort of tax. Somebody will have to, the cooperative will have to start paying taxes, being responsible for all that safe mining. How then do you plan on, convincing these young people that for a long time, who are used to just going there, picking the minerals, selling it, and money just goes straight into their pockets, to start convincing them to pay taxes, have an organized structure? Because I'll give an example of Senseli, where we lost our brothers in Senseli 2 years ago. That place had over 5,000 young people just going there, picking and selling to the bigger Jerabos that take and sell onto the market. How then do you convince those people that are used to that kind of structure to get into a formal structure? And who will supervise them? Because there's been cases where I've been on the ground myself. I went to Sensei and had conversation with them where they feel the actual off-takers now oppress them. So won't they be oppressed a little bit more if we add more regulations and paperwork and everything to govern this kind of mining that is happening in our country?
Well, first of all, right now they're not mining because they were chased from those mines. Yeah,
True, there's nobody mining at
and
Sensei.
they're not mining. When you look at those groups, those Jerabos are very organized. You know why? Because they're always structured. They always have a commander, and they listen to the commander. Okay, so sitting down with the commander, he will see the advantage. They may think they're making more now with the manner they've been operating, but to be able to demonstrate that they'll actually make more through the methods that we're prescribing. Through these structured methods, for instance, they'll get assistance in terms of training. They'll get equipment. It's structured. It's good for them. They'll lead a much more dignified lives going forward. So it's not a problem. They're already structured. They always identify themselves with the leader, and through their leaders, will be able to communicate what it will be best done for them. There will be no knee-jerk reactions like we are seeing now. I mean, the President Hakainde Hichilema just gave back some two, OB19 and OB22. But what you got away from them was said, okay, you've got to. We are dealing with people's lives. We are dealing with people's lives. We may look at them as Jerabo. They look after families. They run the economies in the towns where they come from. I've been to markets in Chingola. You find the women are the ones who are speaking for them to say, if we're not impala, to shafi abalumendu aba ngabale bumba. Alanga tukwatenza like abalumendu aba tapisha. So you have to look beyond them. These are people that are managing an economy. They're managing families. Their continued operation has a positive impact on the number of people going forward. Yeah, so we have thought through it. We've sat with their leaders. We know how it's going to work. The principle there is that we are going to protect them because they're Zambians.
What about the security concerns? Because we've heard security concerns. I know you referenced to what's the response to this kind of mining by the UPND with the army and everything else. Isn't there a genuine concern of security when you have gold being mined in such a manner and people have guns around these particular areas? Obviously, people are getting exploited, and there's that concern. If me and my friends want to form a cooperative and want to go and mine, and we're leaving Lusaka, we are Lusaka people, we're going to go into these far-flung areas where we're not familiar, and we get there, what sort of security do we have as young people that are not domiciled in these areas? What's your plan for security in this particular area?
That's exactly, especially because there were talks of foreign nationals coming in.
Yeah, that's exactly
guns.
That's exactly what we were describing. You see, when you have an aggregator, you've got an aggregator. This is a market for whatever is being produced. Zambia Gold, for instance, you would have agreed with these small-scale miners. Okay, here's your cooperative. We are advancing you some equipment. When you have mined, your refinery is here with the aggregator. This is where you sell and so on. Already, just by that structure alone, you are dealing with the issue of security. You have identified the miners by the cooperatives. They've got their mining licenses. Okay, you know the areas where they're mining from and where they're delivering. So there'll be no space for a vagabond. There'll be no space for people who are just moving up and down. The people who are there will be there because they've got something to do, and they belong to a particular grouping. They are mining at a particular site, and whatever they're producing, they're taking to this aggregator. So that control addresses the security aspect of it.
Beyond that, just additionally to what the president has said, if there's no sense of ownership on the part of the Zambians, you are bound to have other people creeping in, because you have made them feel like thieves, and they feel like what they are mining, they are stealing, and another person has come to steal with them. So you can't have so much security in those circumstances. But if you do it the Ghanaian way, we discussed this with the president, the Ghana system,
Yes.
where the people have a sense of ownership.
Yes.
So if you have your sense of ownership, you are going to protect what you have. You are the first line of defense in that particular area. Because if someone is going to come and say, I also want to mine here, you have a reason to stop them from mining at that particular site, because you have this sense of ownership. If you do not have that, then it is bound to become a security issue, where you even have the army coming in, where you have the army going in and shooting people, and no one has accounted for those people that have died in those places. There have been more deaths at the hands of the government than there have been just amongst themselves in those particular areas. And those are the things that really needs to be told. That's the story that needs to be told to the Zambian people. But Mr. President, I think the question that was asked in going around issues of farming, what that we were finding along the way, in almost every area that we went to. See, there's been this illusion that perhaps the UPND have lost popularity in the urban areas. They'll get the rural vote. As a matter of fact, the rural vote is gone, because people in rural areas depend on agriculture. And because they depend on agriculture, and they're coming from a place where they used to get 6 to 9 bags each for them to farm, and now they have to share a bag amongst, say, 4 or 5 people. That is problematic. And the president himself admitted to say, yes, we know you are sharing in Medaz. He has not explained why they've moved from 6 to sharing in Medaz. He has not explained to them. And as far as they're concerned, someone is touching on their livelihoods. Beyond that, the roads, Mr. President, that we went through. Remember going through Chama, Lundazi, Matumbo into Shuangandu, that road needs attention. The Pika road going all the way to Kasama, going to Nakonde, that one needs attention. We went as far as Chiengi. Chiengi road needs a lot of attention, and that has been the greatest experience of going by road. We were able to see most of the road. Sumbu Road, Mr. President.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and in the northern province.
Chimbamilongo.
Yes, Chimbamilonge, Kapata Road in Sanfiang. You have all these areas interconnectivity. Perhaps, Mr. President, you could just give
Yes.
that issue. I'm sorry, I seem to be taking over because this is a conversation that we had. The issue of connecting provinces, connecting districts, that is very important for our economy.
Yes, you remember that under the link Zambia 8000, phase 1 was about linking provinces, and some work was done, to link up provinces. The next phase was to link up districts. Like the vice president was saying, you go to Mchinga, you got Chinsali Mulilansolo, you going right through into Isoka. You find that from Isoka into Kasama will take you just an hour 30 minutes, but it will take you the whole day because that particular road is inaccessible. The Chama Matumbo road, for instance, connecting Eastern Province to Mchinga Province. These are low-hanging fruits. There is the other one through Muyombe.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you go to Luapula, you have the Chiengi, Mchinga,
yes,
Kaputa. And all these areas, you find there's a lot of potential for tourism, potential for agriculture, name it. So we have agreed with the vice president that we are going to prioritize these key roads that would link the provinces, would also link the districts. Ideally, focusing on agriculture, focusing on tourism and many other economic activities. We'll start with backbone infrastructure. Most of these roads were actually on contracts. The UPND government just came and cancelled them. Yeah, so we've promised our people, Chama Matumbo Road, we say, look, that's priority. We have talked to the chiefs and promised them that we'll work on this key infrastructure. The one through Muyombe into Mafinga. These are roads that once worked on, will just open up the areas. There's one that goes from Mpika right into Mfue.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're going to talk about promoting tourism, really, between Mpika and Mfue Airport, it's a very short distance. And it's just one road that is been a barrier. So, in a way, when we were first denied permits to fly helicopters right across the country, because President Hakainde Hichilema and his government have just made it clear the opposition should not jump on helicopters. There will be no permits given. We applied very early, this is about 2-3 months ago, and we just denied. At first, we reacted. We thought this was a very bad thing. It has turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because what we know now, we would not have appreciated what we appreciate now.
Ukushosha ilungu.
And we've really been there. We have seen exactly what our people are going through.
Yeah.
We know where to start from. We know how urgent most of these works are, because we've experienced it. And this is what the Zambians are going through every day.
Let's look funding here, because Zambians have experienced a period where this country was like a construction site. There were roads everywhere, construction projects everywhere, but that came at a cost.
Yeah.
Where would this funding come from? Are we borrowing more money? What's your plan as far as funding of these roads and these projects that you speak of?
Well, I'll answer it using very easy examples. Look, to start with, this country has money. Okay, this is a country where in the past 5 years, the leakages, illicit financial flows alone amount to $10 billion. Are you with me?
Yes.
About $2.5 billion a year.
Yeah. So meaning, if you plug these leakages, this money should end up somewhere. It can be productively applied. This is a country where you'll have amounts of around $80 million sent to China by accident. So someone just presses the button, the $80 million is gone. And there's no report of whether it's been paid back or whether
Allegedly by accident.
Allegedly by accident. I'm just want to demonstrate to you that it's an issue of priorities. This is all about priorities. As a member of parliament, I want to tell you that the biggest budget under the PF was 120 billion. The first budget under the UPND before supplementary was 170 billion. 50 billion kwacha over and above the highest budget under PF. It ended at about 213. So we've been averaging 250 billion kwacha per year with the PND. Now, ask them just one question, just to tell us one project they have done with this sort of money. With everything else that was done under the PF, the highest budget was 120 billion. The UPND has doubled that. They can't show us one single project that they have done. So it's an issue of priorities. Is this an issue of priorities? So if you ask me where the money will come from, I've demonstrated what we're able to do with 120 billion. And I've also shown you that 250 billion people have been playing.
What's the plan on plugging the flows of the illicit financial flows that we get from the FIC? And I know that's where you're getting those numbers from. What's your plan here as a team and your legal minds? I'm glad that both of you are legal minds and you can be able to tell us how we can actually plug this in, because when the ordinary Zambian is reading this and seeing all these amounts, they're wondering what a country would have
The $10 billion.
if we
with $10 billion.
Yeah, so
we've lost $10 billion.
So what's the plan?
And the president is quiet. The president is quiet. The president is going to talk about corruption, referring to houses in Exile. But there's $10 billion here. Okay? The president will not refer to $2.5 billion, which was illegally, repatriated from Zambia by a non-mining house. This matter had been in court for some time. A minister single-handedly made a decision to withdraw that matter. You see, we have to be very sincere when we define corruption. We have to define corruption for what it is. Corruption is actually in certain decisions that have been taken. Corruption will come by way of legislation. Corruption will come by way of administration. So the corruption that is told to you is about a house in Apex Hill, some flats in Northmead. Nobody wants to tell you about the $2.5 billion. Nobody wants to talk about the $10 billion. So if you ask, the first will put up a genuine fight against corruption. There are certain reforms that will undertake under the Anti-Corruption Commission. One of them will be on reporting. One of them will be on reporting. When the SEC is handing over a report to the president, they will also hand over a copy to Parliament, a committee at Parliament, a name and shame. The moment people know that they cannot be saved, they will be exposed because there's a report sitting at Parliament, as there is a report sitting at State House. You know there's been 10 ministers who were reported to SEC. At one point, the DG confirmed, yes, we're investigating. The next thing we heard was that they were cleared. We didn't know at what point they were called to answer charges as it were.
Exactly.
That has got to stop.
Mhm.
So on one hand, you have leakages of up to $10-12 billion in that 5 years. There are 10 ministers who were named and cleared. I don't know whether they used to interview them at night. I've been to SEC. You also saw me when I went there. It was in broad daylight, escorted by colleagues and supporters. We don't know when these 10 ministers were going to SEC. We don't even know when they were, what charges they were leveled against them and when they were cleared.
Exactly.
So the moment we begin a genuine fight against corruption, there's going to be a lot of money in this country that will be directed to other activity areas.
Additionally, Mr. President, something that we did refer to, if you have structural inefficiencies where these institutions that are supposed to protect your democracy, they're supposed to protect the integrity of the governance system, are placed under the office of the president, for example. It is something that we've talked about.
Yes.
Why should the Anti-Corruption Commission be under the office of the president, Drug Enforcement Commission under the office of the president? These investigative institutions are under the office of the president. And if you have them under the office of the president, you will have reports such as, no, this minister was seen coming out with a bag, and he goes, and the president is happy to say, no, I asked him. He said there were calendars.
Some very heavy calendars.
Some very heavy calendar. You see, you compromise the fight against corruption in that particular regard. And it will not stop until you have independent institutions of governance. Let the police be independent. If we're going to choose who is Inspector General of Police, are we going to subject it to public scrutiny so that the persons that are taking up those positions are persons of integrity? If we are going to put someone to take over Anti-Corruption Commission, let us look at them. The current one was a cadre. She was a UPND cadre, non-UPND cadre. Now, is she going to act against the party that she belongs to? Because we have no record of her saying that she's ever resigned from the UPND. Is she ever going to go against the decision of the president of the party that she possibly belongs to? You have all those issues that are there. What kind of people do we need to take over such kind of institutions? What kind of scrutiny should be put in place for them? If we have that, then we are going to be closing up those leakages where we have illicit financial flows. The World Bank report, Mr. President, 2022, the first year of the UPND, as regards the mining sector, we lost about $500 billion. What could we do with $500 billion from the mining sector? See, we have this tendency of thinking that this has only affected those that are on the copper belt. It is the very money that is used to buy medicines in Kaputa. It is the very money that is being used to ensure that the road between Kasempa and Kaoma is fixed. It is the same money that is supposed to be used to ensure that NEMA is running and saving the people of Zambia. It is the very money that is supposed to be used to ensure that fertilizers are properly subsidized for farmers to be able to access these fertilizers. It's the very money that can be used to ensure that we get into value addition. Because he likes it, and I enjoy listening to him when he's campaigning, and he said, that is the role of government, to ensure that we uplift the lives of our people and leave them better than we left them, than we found them. Have the Zambians been put at a better place than they were before the UPND came in? The answer is an absolute no, because priority has been about killing the opposition and not necessarily serving the interests of the Zambians.
Does
So,
this does this all mean that you go after the UPND if you win this election? Is this going to be a witch hunt, as some will probably?
see, the people that are going after the UPND are the Zambians. And the legitimate way of going after the UPND is going to vote on the 13th of August.
But my
And
question
not
is
and
around
not
if you win the
necessarily
election,
getting the
what would that
Lugwalo and giving it to another Chavinga to take over the UPND will be killing democracy. It is for that reason that we're saying that let us have a healthy country, a country where democracy thrives, where dissent is allowed, unlike a situation where any person who says anything against the government, look at Nakachinda. Just because of saying HH Mututu, he's in prison. Why should someone be in prison for saying HH Mututu? And then someone who allegedly got envelopes or whatever calendars they were, or the 10 ministers that are alleged to be involved in corruption, none of them has been tried. You have the Financial and Economic Crimes Court that has never tried any person that is serving in government or any person that is related or affiliated to any person in government. You have those problems. That needs to be nipped in the bud. We are not going to kill the UPND. They will thrive, and people should be able to have a choice. Exactly, people should be able to have a choice. Unlike what they tried to do to us, not knowing that they were building a bigger opposition in the Zambians. And that is the core that the Zambians are. The Zambians are not interested in politics or that are divisive. It is unlike what President Hakainde is doing. When he goes to a particular region, he says, "Vote for me, give me 1 million votes," because these people will be beating you. They used to beat you; they'll continue beating you. When he goes to other regions, he says, "One Zambia, one nation." What sort of hypocrisy is that? If we're going to preach one Zambia, one nation, let us preach it everywhere. Where we belong to, places we come from, and places we don't come from, because it's about uniting the country. That is exactly what we need. So UPND, when we say Kuyabebele, we say it is the Zambian people that are going to go by way of ballot to remove them from power, but not for them to stop existing as an organization. They must.
They must exist.
They must exist, and that is a better way of having checks and balances in government. And that is a test for a policy. If a policy is good, the best way to test it, throw it to the opposition. Let them comment on it. Let them say what they have to say on it, and then we will have a better way of governing.
And they must be. They should be sure. Also
Exactly.
That, when in opposition, even the first week, they are free to hold rallies and begin campaigning from day one. All these complications, setting police to say, let them not meet. No, that's the beginning of problems. You see, the moment you kill a dissenting voice, it actually affects you more who is in government. Imagine, for instance, if the UPND had given the opposition freedom, to debate freely in parliament, speak freely at rallies, we would not have had the challenges of load shedding.
Yes.
They would have rectified it. We would not have had challenges of fertilizers in Medas. Okay? We would not have had challenges of these oppressive laws. They would have actually adjusted themselves and aligned themselves to govern the Zambians better. So they're discovering this at the very end, when cabinet is dissolved, parliament, and a few days before the elections. They're getting the reactions from the Zambian people so much later. So we've been discussing with Vice President that democracy has to thrive. Well, fortunately for us, it comes naturally because of our training.
Exactly.
There's no other way. We've got to allow democracy to thrive.
Yeah.
We know the importance of democracy. And Zambians will have their freedoms, the freedom to express themselves. We actually say, look, if for some reason, instead of supplying 8 bags, you supplied 7, you can go to radio and say, President Mwalitu, there will be no one who come and pick you up and say, to police for hate speech.
Yeah.
Now to come up, President, that you should change by 1 bag.
And something you're passionate about, Mr. President, the politics of vengeance. I think it's important that is clear.
No, we've made it very clear that there'll be no vengeance. Not at all. It has to stop somewhere. it will end at us. It has to stop with us. We are saying we are resetting the country. We are going for national renewal. When we talk about unity, it's unity indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. So there should be no politician who should begin to fidget, thinking that we're going to go after them, who set police on them to find funny or silly cases. Not at all. What Zambia needs to move forward. Zambia needs to move forward economically, as it were. Zambia needs to move forward in terms of unity. We are looking at national restoration. We are not only looking at changing government. We are looking at changing how government works. We are starting reforming the civil service. We have undertaken to depoliticize the civil service. We would like to professionalize the civil service.
How exactly are you going to do that? Because that's become a topical issue recently.
Wow.
Depoliticizing
Yeah,
the civil service.
the first thing is that we're going to embark on a merit-based recruitment approach. Professionals that deserve to work in certain positions in government take up those positions. By way of pronouncement, coming from myself and the Vice President, we will speak to our members for those that want to be in politics and let them stay away from the civil service. We understand and know the importance of ensuring that the state remains neutral. By the way, government does not own the state. They merely supervise the state. So ensuring that the state always remains neutral. All those political cadres, whether they're coming from our political party or other political parties, you stay away, from the state. So these are reforms that will immediately implement in the civil service, and Zambians will be able to benefit from that. If you look at the situation now, the situation is so bad that any government office that you go to, you can literally tell this civil servant is a cadre. If they know your face like they do Makete Zulu's face, you won't even get any proper treatment.
I can't even get into prison to see the Kachida.
Exactly.
You go there as a lawyer, they won't allow you. They say you need clearance from headquarters. I wonder why I need clearance.
Well, they're looking beyond the practicing certificate.
Exactly.
They're being politicians themselves. They're looking at you as a political opponent.
And this civil servant, Mr. President, this civil servant who's an ambassador, had a press briefing where he says, I have come to campaign for the UPND, Andrew Banda. And he says, because I'm a presidential appointee. But he's acknowledging he's a civil servant. And the regulations are very clear about participation in politics. You'd expect a response. If the president is a man of integrity, he will say, I will not allow that. Because you have chosen to be a civil servant. You had an option not to be. By reason of that appointment to a civil servant, you can't do that. Now we have special civil servant from State House, civil servant from everywhere else. That should not happen. That should not happen. If you have chosen to take up a job as a civil servant, serve the Zambian people. Don't say, I'm coming to campaign and I'm going. So that's an indictment on the president himself. What is he going to say about that? What is he saying about Andrew Stance? Is he going to fire him because he has taken up that stance? Because obviously that's against the rules and regulations of the civil service. And he should know that better. If he's a person of integrity, if he means what he says, and I doubt that he does mean what he says, he will take action against Andrew Banda. He should not be a civil servant today. Secretary to the Cabinet, Patrick Kangwa, should be able to move in and say, you can't do this, therefore you are no longer part of the civil service. That is the right thing that should happen at this particular time.
So you can see the extent to which our country has gone.
Yeah.
Everything's going wrong, and we seem to be on autopilot. There's no one who's in charge. Yeah. So we are saying we need to reset this country.
Exactly.
The need for restoration. We simply want Zambia to work again. We want Zambia as a country to work again.
For all Zambians.
Yes, for all Zambians.
Yes.
I know that, Kishan, please, you've been around long enough to know that you may not say it loudly.
Yes.
There's nothing going on. The country is not working. We need to get it to work again. And getting Zambia to work again, the three arms of government should function. We need to see a normal parliament, for instance, not what to experience the past 4 years. We need to see an independent judiciary. we need to see an executive that is functioning, as it were. So, as the situation has been, everybody's lost. There's no parliament to talk about. Vice President was just describing the two-tier justice system, two sets of laws.
Yeah.
Certain courts and laws only apply to those that are in opposition,
Including interference with judges.
interference with judges, as it were.
Mm.
So we need to get this country to work again.
Mhm.
We need Zambia to start working
Working
again as a
again.
country.
Yes.
This country needs national renewal, restoration, a reset. It's actually urgent. It's an emergency. When we
Yes.
travel, as we have done the past few weeks, we actually realize that this is an emergency.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the relationship between the two of you,
Yeah.
Honorable Zulu, Honorable Mondibele, because without dwelling so much on how the alliance came together, there are some coaches that believe that what we have here is a pure marriage of convenience that may not last the test of time. How strong is this relationship between the two of you, especially over the last few months you've had to work closely together?
May I go first, Mr.
Please
President?
do so.
See, political pundits tend to want to define our relationship as one that started in politics. Like I said, it is beyond the politics. It is about shared vision, shared principles. We met when I was still a businessman and I was still practicing.
That's right.
I was still practicing, and the circumstances of our meeting were through a mutual friend that really came with him to my office, and we had a discussion, and we've been friends since. Our wives are friends, and something that you may not know, and something that really bonds us together, is the fact that the president and I are able to say, let's sit and just pray.
Yeah.
We're able to pray together.
That's right.
We'll sit and pray together. And there is nothing that is convenient about that. It's shared values, shared principles, and shared vision for a united Zambia, a better Zambia. Beyond this, we're friends. We're able to be a check on each other. We're able to be candid with each other. We had quite a number of trips. I remember when we went to China, when we were just provincial ministers, and just relooking at things and talking about things. He was close to RB, I was close to RB. So we'd meet at many a forum. He was close to ECL, I was close to ECL. We would meet many times, tasks that he was being given. I was his vice or legal committee, so we would do most tasks together. I know his thinking. He knows my thinking. And we are not conveniently together. We are divinely together, I would say.
That's right.
Some think that this partnership will come to an end if you don't win the election. You disperse, is what they say.
No, I think the vice president has described our relationship in very clear terms. For those that may want to know, from the time we lost elections, I went into Parliament as leader of opposition, and we had a number of matters in court. His office was actually like our
Secretariat.
Yeah, and the one who anchored the secretariat actually as leader of, I'll be there every morning, sitting with him, planning and so on. Yeah, so we're not strangers.
Did I send a bill?
So the time that we're serving as provincial ministers, we were not just workmates or maybe neighbors in Parliament. The other provincial ministers would tell you those two are friends because we live, work, and be together. Do things together. Our wives are friends and meet, and so it's not a marriage of convenience at all. Remember that because of the UPND, we found ourselves in these circumstances. We had no political party. So each one of us was trying.
Mhm.
By that time, it was agreed to say, okay, it's not just between the two of us. I mean, Harry Kalava, all those, we said, okay, guys, let's give it a shot.
Mhm.
Whoever we met, the others will support.
Mhm.
So this was discussed with many other political parties. So these are strategies that we were not discussing in the media. you know,
Yes.
And even when things were hot, things were heated, I'll pick a call. Hey, but where are you?
Tishan.
Tishan.
Nice.
You know, but people thought it was no. We'd actually watch it now. You would send me something. Say, have you seen this? Somebody said I said this. If somebody reported my capital said something about me, I say, yes, what's somebody. I've just seen it also. Yeah, so that's the sort of relationship that we have. But most importantly, like you say, we actually pray together.
I recently saw an AI video where all over hitting Mr. President right here. And we laughed about that to say it is those that want to that they can't see any good in anything. They don't want to see any good in anything. But it is not a marriage of convenience. We are here and we are both responding to the call by Zambians that we have a united opposition. And as you have seen, more and more people keep joining us because of the unity that we've displayed amongst ourselves.
So does that
And
mean
we
people,
are still open.
yeah, so does that mean people should trust that regardless what happens with the election, we'll still see this united front in Parliament? We won't hear, no, there's a press briefing. Honorable Mundubile has called all the NRPU PMPs to the side, and Honorable Zulu here has called all the RPMP to the side, and now we have two political parties because we haven't won an election. And this is the questions that the Zambians are asking. What's the long-term plan here if this attempt does not work? Are you still the voice for the people together?
We are still the voice for the people together.
Our
This
tribe
is
is Zambia.
Yeah, that's right.
Our tribe is
That's
Zambia.
right. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, if you just tuned in, we have Honorable Brian Mundubile and Honorable Makebi Zulu, both running on the National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity ticket as president and running mate, respectively. So, as you've been campaigning, you've raised some important key policy issues which have attracted responses from the incumbent. Issues such as the FRA, maize buying price, the issue of politically aligned civil servants, which you've spoken to here, and of course the issue of foreign reserves. If you go back to the manifesto, what stands out from your messages as far as improving people's welfare is concerned? Because at the end of the day, it's about the Zambian people and making their lives better.
Yes, I think what you pick up on manifesto first is that we are moving women and youths from the margins to the center of policy and economic transformation, making the youths the main drivers of this transformation. That will come out very clear. Number two will be that we'd like to create jobs through industrialization. And we'd like to industrialize through investments, as it were. Remember, we just from Vice President made reference to several roads that we saw. We're saying to be able to industrialize, to take advantage of the low-hanging fruits, the potential that lies in various sectors, including tourism, agriculture, as it were. But the starting point is investment in backbone infrastructure. So in improving people's livelihoods, we are focused on industrialization through value chains. Agriculture is the first that we like to take up. We've identified 12 farming blocks right across the country. And government will invest in these farming blocks, attract investments from the private sector, and of course, an investment arm of government into these farming blocks. The aim is that at the end of 2 years, we must begin to see some downstream industries in these farming blocks by way of value addition. So when we do that, we will create employment. So it's just one sector. We are focused on this particular sector because it absorbs the highest numbers, as it were. So we are looking at 12 farming blocks that within 3 years should be able to employ well over 300,000 people. Okay, this is all research documents are there. People can make references to that. Yeah, we think this is going to make a huge difference. Secondly, we are looking at the potential, for instance, in Eastern Province. There is a huge potential for cotton. So, using the aggregation method, you go to Mulungushi Textiles. The Mulungushi Textiles of the UPND, not the Mulungushi Textiles that were envisaged.
They're printers.
Yeah, that one is just a printer for Steng and so on. We are looking at Mulungushi Textiles as an aggregator. that will have behind it cotton farmers in Central Province, cotton farmers in Eastern Province. But we are not allowing, in order for these farmers to get value for their crop, we are saying we should have some on-farm processing. There must always be some value added so that the farmers get a benefit of it. We've talked about baby gineries at these farms in Eastern Province and Central Province to be able to supply cotton. So besides maize, we are looking at other crops that are friendly to Zambians, that Zambians can grow and be able to aggregate their stock and supply to these aggregators. So the thrust of all this is job creation. Zambians are suffering now because they're not employed. Poverty can only be fought through sustainable employment. And that's exactly what our starting point is. It's poverty reduction through job creation. And job creation through industrialization. Industrialization through downstream industries or a value addition chains, as it were. So this is where we are. And you talked about FRA. We've really been concerned. You heard just a few days ago the president and his chairperson for FRA were giving
Disagree.
we're disagreeing publicly, where the president says the moisture content is low,
Bye.
buy.
Mm.
The chairman says no, the president is not being truthful. The moisture content is high. And then we began to question. We said, okay, well, I don't think they carried out a comprehensive survey to see that every farmer, all the farmers that grew maize had their maize with high moisture content. What was the relationship between announcing the floor price and the moisture content? It's possible to announce a floor price and say, but we will only buy when the moisture content is below 12%. So there was nothing that was, the moisture content would not stop FRA from announcing the floor price. They could have still announced the floor price and then maybe guided to say, we will not get the maize that is above 13% in terms of moisture content. So we realize that the UPND is gambling with people's lives. They don't realize that this actually involves people's lives.
Mm.
We are aware that they may not have the financial resources to buy maize because of their past conduct with the financial institutions, as it were. And we've been telling our people to say, how is it that with the UPND, when it comes to buying councillors and MPs, they've got money, but they've got no money to buy maize.
Including buying those that voted for Bill 7. They had lots of money.
In fact, the latest offer we got yesterday from Kasama, they've moved, by the way, the Vice President, I forgot to brief you, for a parliamentary candidate now, they've moved from 10 million.
Mhm.
They are now offering 20 million. Okay?
For them to
So-
withdraw.
For them to withdraw so that theirs can go unopposed.
Yeah.
And they were initially, I think, at 10.
Mm.
For councillors and others, they're offering 5. So you find that this is a government, they've got enough money to buy candidates
Where have you been getting that information?
from the people that tempted.
The candidates are our members.
Our candidate from Kaputa had to run away from Kaputa because his competitor there had a bag of money and said, look, you've got to take this. Like I'll send you for election. They don't go with stories, they actually go with sacks of money.
Yeah.
2 days ago, I know that the president of Kasama, the Advance Party, one of the gentlemen approached our supporters. They were carrying 20 million questions they wanted to give. And you see, when we talk about Zambia, it should work again. We even have anti-corruption commission. We pay them salaries every month. And these things are happening every day. Not that I don't know about it. Remember our candidate from Kaputa?
Yes.
I don't think he's even in Kaputa. He's staying in Kasama because of this continuous bombardment.
Have you
So
reported
they-
this to the ECZ? Because that's malpractice.
Well, they know these things. ECZ knows. There are certain things that they should take judicial notice of. Because it's all over. Everybody, it's like a death in Magoe, where a driver is killed, and there's a death in Kaputa. Okay,
Yeah.
the death in Kaputa has nothing to do with campaign, electoral violence. People were simply sharing money. One other person died. ECZ is very quick, to suspend campaigns.
And stop us from going to Kaputa.
there was no, what do you call those dispute resolution meetings,
Committee, yes,
which should recommend
at the local.
at the local level.
Yeah.
None. So, but the elections are still going on in Magoy.
Yes.
Okay, somebody's killed because he's playing Maccabi and Virengi in Chawama. They are killed in broad daylight. But the campaigns under a particular political party are still going on in Chawama. So when you ask me whether we've reported to ECZ, you know, yeah. So we still insist that this country has to work again. I'm just giving you examples of what farmers are going through. So the farmers that are stuck with the maize are also aware in Kaputa that there's 20 million kwacha on offer for every parliamentary seat should the candidate decide to withdraw. So there's so much money, you know, in the hands of the party, and there's no money to be able to pay farmers. So we are going to correct the situation because we are focused on Zambians.
Yeah.
Anything to do with Zambians, we'll be in a hurry to resolve it. You will not have a situation where our cadres are flashing money and buying candidates when farmers are not paid, when the floor price is not announced. That will not happen. We will not have a situation like that where there is no medicine in Kaputa, in the hospitals. We went to Chama, there are no medicines in hospitals, there are no nurses in hospitals, no doctors in hospitals. And yet cadres that are traversing those particular areas are carrying millions of kwacha behind their vans, as it were.
Yeah.
So the country has to function again.
This FRA issue, the truth of the matter is that FRA does not have money. Because previously they borrowed to pay the farmers. Remember that supply where farmers had to line up through the night to collect their monies. They had to borrow from the banks, so the banks won't give them money. Beyond that, the maize that FRA supposedly sold was sold to ZNS, and ZNS has not paid for that maize. ZNS itself, using that illegal company of theirs called Eagle, meaning I say illegal because you can't have a commander being a shareholder. None of the people, government is not a shareholder in that particular company, and yet it's running as a government entity. Supplied that maize, and some of the people that got that milling meal are politicians who have not paid ZNS for ZNS to be able to pay FRA. So we have this situation, and that's where we're saying all these areas of corruption have to be really sealed.
Some of them are
Yes,
yes,
yes.
pure theft.
That's pure theft and pure abuse of office and
And
authority.
This,
yeah.
and this information
Mhm.
can be on the floor of the House through parliamentary reports of well-known companies run by UPND cadres going to collect maize from FRA, okay, with a view to export, and just never pay for it. So sometimes when we look at the president, calling others thieves, and, so we laugh and say, okay. I mean, if he just took a moment to look at what is happening in his own camp, we don't think he could actually go loud and talk about these things. So these have been pure cases of theft. If you look at the story of Eagle, like Vice President is saying, and you interrogate it thoroughly, the story of Eagle,
It's an illegality.
there are a number of things that are involved. We know of many connected persons to
It's a
the
scandal.
PND that set up milling plants in their residences, in their farms. And they were getting maize from through Eagle, getting maize and
Packaging.
taking to these milling plants and packaging under Eagle, and simply never paid for that maize. A number of eminent persons in government today, government institutions, running milling plants on their farms and subcontracted by Eagle to mill this maize, and nobody paid for this maize. This maize, the milling was later exported. Nobody pays for this.
I want to throw in something here. Since we're talking about FRA and milk now, you spoke about maize dryers
Yes.
as an alternative to the issue of moisture content.
Yes.
And you also spoke about late entry into the maize market by the food reserve agency. So just break it down for us. What's your plan, and what are these maize dryers? At what scale are you planning on having these maize dryers? How do they work? Can they be accessed by the ordinary farmer that you were speaking of?
Yes, when you go to commercial farm, it's most of these farms that are dryers. A commercial farmer will not wait for the moisture content. What you'll have at a commercial farm, you'll have a combine harvesting. When it's harvesting, it's pushing through a shaler. It's in one chain, pushing through a shaler, or the same combine harvester is shelling, and from the shaler straight into the dryer. On the other side, they're bagging. Same day. Huh? I mean, I've seen this so many times over. So what we said was, each to a government kwafa abantu. So problem than moisture content. Okay, we can invest in dryers in 2 ways. It's either FRA around their depots would simply have dryers. Okay,
Exactly.
Honorable Makepi Zulu, okay, you wait, you're in the queue. How many are there? These are 50 bags. Put them through the dryer, get them on the other side, weigh them, and it ends there. But also, you can have on-farm facilities. We are going to introduce on-farm facilities. Remember, these are our farmers. These are our farmers. Okay, we will go an extra mile to save our people. So we will have a facility. It's not for every farmer. It could take care of so many farmers. It's a dryer. Okay, as they are harvesting, they process it through the dryer to the right moisture content. They're able to supply to FRA. So when the people were arguing, we looked back and said, well, a lot of things are going to change, and I'm sure people will appreciate. But now that we've hit a snag, people keep on referring to dryer. People are now having to look at how commercial farmers have been going around this particular problem. This issue of moisture content doesn't exist in commercial farms because an average farm has a dryer, that dries the maize the moment they're harvesting it. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll be opening up the phone lines very soon. Give us a call 0974-870-877 if you have a question or contribution. We have Honorable Brian Mundubile and Honorable Makebi Zulu, who are running on the National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity ticket as president and running mate, respectively. Yes, this is under the Tonse Pamonzi Alliance. Also, if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to leave a comment in the comment box, and we'll read some of those comments as they come in. And now, before we open up the phone lines, are you satisfied with the printing of ballot papers in Dubai? Are you happy with the process?
Well, I wouldn't immediately comment. We are yet to get a report from our people. We've got our people that are up there. We are aware that the printing started before people got there. Of course, we raised concerns on that. So a comprehensive report will come. We'll be able to speak to that once we've appreciated what is going on.
Okay. And you also have a series of public engagement this week leading up to the mega rally here in Osaka. Why is this important for people to come and attend, hear your messages?
Well, we are making public commitments, as it were. We want to speak, especially for Lusaka, we want to speak to the civil servants. We want to speak to the farmers. We want to speak to the youths and be able to tell them what we want to do for them and some of the solutions that we have to certain challenges that are being faced. So we want to encourage people to come. Turn out in your numbers. We may not have the regalia our friends have, and obviously,
Or the buses they
or
have.
the buses they have.
Or the teddy bears.
Of course, we don't have the number of these facilities, but what we have is a message for you, a message of hope. Come and listen, and for all those that may have other ideas that will point to political violence, and please stay away. We've had over 35 rallies so far, incident-free. Not at one point did we find ourselves, exchanging blows or people ducking fingers, as it were. It's not that we've not been tempted. For instance, in Chinsadi, the UPND simply blocked the road as we went to the rally. We stayed in our cars for 15 minutes. Police came and dispersed them. In Akonde, it was the same. They surrounded. So there's been several attempts. We've told our people to exercise maximum restraint. And so even for those that are coming to the rally in Lusaka, please be peaceful. We have said it time and again that there will be no cadreism in our government. No cadreism in markets, no cadreism in past decisions, and no cadreism in the civil service. Okay, so we want to reset the country. We want this country to work again.
And now, as far as the two of you are concerned, how does post August 13th look like? Are you confident that the ECZ has done or is doing enough to assure the contestants and the nation that this election will be free and fair, considering the recent suspension of NRPUP campaigns in Kaputa after some instances of violence?
Well, free and fair is not something that you can talk about under the current ECZ. We've said it time and again. You don't expect to have a free and fair election when the person at the helm of the ECZ is a UPND cadre. You know, clearly not. But the will of the Zambian people prepare the 13th of August.
But are you happy with how the ECZ has done its work, despite all of this?
Of course not. I was just talking about we were on our way to Kaputa. I want you to see how deliberate they can be. You see, when you have a cadre in charge of an organization, they always use that political lens that is biased towards their political party. We were headed, I think we were in Kasama. We were headed to Kaputa. Someone was killed in Magoy. Another person died in Kaputa. The ECZ didn't even wait for any recommendation from the District Dispute Resolution Committee. As per procedure, there was no meeting. You know, on their own, they decided to suspend the campaigns in
Kaputa.
But in Magoy, campaigns continued. A non-political party where this particular person was killed. All the details are there. They said they're still investigating. The Chawama case, they're still investigating. Yeah, so we have simply decided to ignore some of these things. You see, when you interact with the grassroots, what Vice President and I have been through, we've actually seen the pain in people's eyes. People are suffering. So when you compare, when you weigh the two, I think we've been more focused on addressing what the Zambians are going through. Otherwise, we'll be on radio, Facebook every day complaining about the ECZ. What we have prioritized, the initial priority, is to address the challenges that Zambian people are facing. If you look closely at the picture where we have been, these are all women you'll find in Chinsali, in Chama, in Mundazi, and they're saying, Tulubuleni, they're literally crying and say, please save us. Tulubuleni, Tulubuleni. So when you listen to this old woman, Nakulumutinda Pamakasa, and then you hear that ECZ has made that announcement, you sit down to decide, what do you want to pay attention to? Go and begin to write a complaint against ECZ, or simply look for solutions for this old woman who may not have a very long time to live. Yes, we have chosen a path of taking care of the challenges Zambian people are going through. So our resolve is that we will do it for the Zambian people.
People power.
It's a people power.
Yeah.
So that's why we haven't commented on a number of things that have gone by. We have focused on understanding, so that when the two of us are seated, we realize it's not about us, it may not be about our cabinet, but that old woman in Chama. What about that old man in Mununga? The other old women in Chienge, as it were.
Mr.
So-
Kapianga in Chinsali.
Mr. Kapianga in Chinsali, yes, he's a freedom fighter. So these are the people that are occupying our minds right now. Madam Zalomes with our people, they'll go on and do things like that. But the will of the Zambian people will prevail. You know, whichever
always
way,
does.
it goes,
Mm.
the will of the Zambian people will prevail.
All right. Well, give us a call 0974-870-877 if you have a question or a contribution. We have Honorable Brian Munduvile and Honorable Makebi Zulu who are running on the NRPUP ticket. That is the president and running mate, respectively. Call us now. See it from you. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you doing? What's your name?
My name is Pastor Joseph Chipola. I'm calling you from Choma.
All right, Pastor Chipolo. We have, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Go ahead with your question.
Thank you so much. I want to appreciate, first of all, the two great men on the panel, President Mundu and Vice President Makebi Zulu. I God, I thank you for such a mission and time to liberate Zambia. Okay, because speaking on the issue of the constitution, especially the issues of the cyber law, that really brought a lot of problems to our money and women in the country. And as a man of God, I want to pray to God that you will that the Zambia liberate the people of Zambia. Because you can imagine as a friend of God in our churches, our members are even begging to talk to us to tell us more. Because they have to use the WhatsApp, the that way. That's what they do to president. So I thought I should be able to speak to that aspect. But because you come into this government, ensure that the issues of the law, you repeal those cyber laws must be taken into consideration. Because it's going to help our people to liberate themselves. Because what we're experiencing now, people in the human rights, it's not supposed to be like that. Imagine as a man of God, as a man of God, I'm feeling the pressure, even amongst my members. I can tell that our members are suffering silently and they are afraid to speak out because they are afraid of the law important. Imagine where I pastor in here in Yoma, a number of people, they fail to speak freely because they're afraid. Okay? So now, as a servant of the Lord, I thought I should be able to contribute briefly. I know there's a lot of people trying to go and contribute on this end. Just to encourage the truth that please, we've been reached by the message of the Lord. That as you come into government, and I pray that God is going to be able to do his wonders. Because the people of Zambia, when you see them, they have made their decisions. And therefore, I pray that nobody will be able to bring any confusion or any negative action to this cause. And as you form government, as you enter into government, please look into this matter and ensure that you liberate the people of Zambia and the children of Zambia so that they can be able to get
All right, Pastor.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your call. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
All right.
Call us up at 0974-870-877, 0950-955-877, or 0967-877-447. We're going to take in two more calls and we'll allow our guests in studio to respond to your questions and contributions. Call us up at 0974-870-877, 0950-955-877. Those lines will get you to, this is an extended version of the Red Hot Breakfast you're listening to. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning to you. What's your name?
Mr. Mwanda.
Good morning, Mr. Mwanza. How are you this morning?
I'm well, thank you. Mr. President, Honorable Akinde, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Mwanda.
I'm very happy with what the President said yesterday when he said free education should come with free books. And that's why I'm contributing. And I even didn't want to mention my name, but I'll mention because I'm in support of what the President and the Vice President is giving out. As teachers, we have had serious problems. I've been said it for 15 years. I will tell you the truth. Now, from President 1 up to now, we have over 150 teachers in class. It's very difficult to even give a proper exercise in class because there is no infrastructure. We even regret because it was better those days. We had community schools who used to differentiate government schools, but nowadays we have over 100. How do you give even homework? So the quality of education has gone down because this government has not put serious priority to education. They are just saying free education, but the people that we're taking to universities, for example, are going there without being there. We used to teach these people properly, but now you have over 100 students. How do you even concentrate on them? So now there's a serious gap. Those that are intelligent are intelligent. Those that are down do not even privilege to teacher pupil ratio is very difficult for me. I just want to encourage those there to continue. The teachers, I know there are a lot of people that are listening who are teachers. They know what I'm talking about. If you come in town, please consider that and make sure that you continue building other schools so that we can decongest this. We support free education, but what is free education? That is not for panic.
Samanza, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. 0974 870 877 0950 955 877 0967 877 447. Those lines get you to the extended version of the Red Hot Breakfast we're having this morning. Joining us in studio, we have Honorable Mundiwele and Honorable Makebi Zulu. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? What's your name?
I'm calling you from Within.
All right, Elijah. We have Honorable Mundiwele and Honorable Zulu in studio. What's your question or contribution to them?
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you, Rani.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you for having given yourself up for the Zambian people to use you to change the government. We focus on what they did focus when the UPN have failed the Zambian. And electing the UPN in 2021 was a mistake of mental magnitude that must be corrected. And we have always wanted people to come forward and be our torch bearers, changing the government. I would also like to remind you that you keep reminding the Zambians that the UPND changed the constitution this year. Already, the UPND association has announced that there will be a change of the constitution in 2027. Should they win? What do they want to change to the constitution, which they did not change this year? This means that they have plans that could be overreaching. They could even change or remove the presidential definition and even overhaul the constitution to suit the political desires of the UPND. You should also remind the Zambian people that President Jaga Station has presided over a very corrupt government. Looking at the concession itself, the crime scene, also the F5 reports that have been coming out, clearing figures in those reports. Then we have the first quantum minerals deal, where the people that had illegally transferred $2.5 billion to Panama illegally were arrested during PM, but that case was dropped during the UPN regime. The Zambian people are ready to change the government. The UPN is going. I don't even know why President Chaka is saying them as
Elijah, I'll ask you to conclude. We'll ask you to conclude.
President Chaka is saying they are closing schools when he visits a particular area. There are very people trying to report that he's popular. When actually on the ground, he's the most unpopular politician in Southern Africa right now. I thank you.
All right, thank you, Elijah.
All right, you can respond to those calls that we've received so far.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. For Pastor Chipola, thank you very much. We are with you in prayer, and thank you for your prayers. Mr. Mwanza, yes, so this is a matter that we're taking very seriously. The issue of quality education is very important. You know that if we don't handle this very well in the formative stages, the situation may be recoverable. Where if the foundation is compromised in the early stages, these pupils will not be able to progress far in terms of education as it were. So we have decided that we will quickly look at measures that will reduce the teacher-pupil ratio to at least below 50, so that the teaching can be impactful. So you know, Mr. Mwanza, that when you are changing a policy, there is what we call a RIA, a regulatory impact assessment. it's very clear that our friends in the UPND, when they were coming up with these policies, they didn't do the area to be able to appreciate the impact as we're finding it on the ground. But we'll be very quick to rectify this so that we don't affect many pupils negatively. So, Mr. Mwanza, as a teacher, we also want to assure you that to be able to achieve this free education, free and quality education, we also have to look at the welfare of teachers. So we've undertaken to look at the issue of accommodation for teachers, especially in the rural parts of the country. And in the meantime, we will look at revising the housing allowances that they get so that they're able to rent a decent accommodation. It will be a dream and fallacy to think of teachers providing quality education when they're submerged in debt and the government is refusing to implement debt swap. So Mwanza, be assured that we will implement the debt swap. We will look at the issue of teachers' houses and also revising housing allowances as it were, so that the education that we offer to our children will not only be free but quality.
And upgrades as well, Mr. President.
Oh yes, thank you, Vice President. Mr. Mwanza, I've just been reminded by Vice President, we were discussing, we discovered that there are 50 positions that remain unupgraded.
50,000.
50,000 actually. So the moment we get into government, we will attend to these 50,000 positions to make sure that they're upgraded and people are sitting in the rightful positions that they qualify for. Yeah. So Elijah from Lusaka has pointed out a number of things and of interest in the Lusaka Dual Carriageway. Yes, Elijah, we agree with you. The dual carriageway was in the processes. The signing of this particular contract was in conflict with the Constitution and Article 210. The same happened to Mopani. We are concerned about the report in the FIC report, and of course that $2.5 billion that we had always talked about in Parliament. Yes, so Elijah, like we said, this country needs a reset. It needs to work again. You can't have a government that deliberately violate the law. You know, it's clear that any disposal of any public asset, whether in part or wholly, needed approval of Parliament. And they simply ignored that in the case of Lusaka Dual Carriageway and Mopani. We haven't seen any action on FIC. Elijah, if I were to remind you, there was a time, I think very early after we lost elections, when we would pressurize the Vice President with the issues of corruption. They would come back to us and ask us for evidence. And one day, we produced a letter that came from a South African contractor stating that one of the ministers was actually soliciting for a bribe. This minister was soliciting for 2 million rands and a G-Wagon, a motor vehicle, blue, black in colors as well. So this particular contractor was awarded a contract of $100 million in Western Province, had written to the president that one of his ministers was soliciting for a bribe. You can imagine, Elijah, that minister was never fired. That minister was never suspended. That minister was never prosecuted. So it's from that time in 2022 that we knew to say the UPND and the will never fight corruption as it were. You know, so these are some of the things that we want to work on as we reset the country. Vice President, would like to make a comment.
Yes, please. Perhaps on Elijah's comment as regards the failure by the UPND and what the fears that were expressed that this is likely to be the most corrupt redoubt election ever in the history of this country. And to facilitate for that, this government had to amend Article 52(6) of our Constitution, which required that if a person resigns or withdraws or indeed is disqualified by the court, then the election would be stopped and then parties allowed to file again. All this buying of candidates that you've been saying is because there was that amendment to that.
So they prepared for it.
Yes. So they were prepared for this, to know that they will be able to buy off candidates, not to contest, because if today a candidate from the opposition is bribed and they will do withdraw, we are disadvantaged. We will not have an opportunity to field yet another candidate. The essence of that clause in the Constitution is that no one should be disadvantaged and to stop such corrupt activities, because government, or indeed a party in government, has access to money, whether illicit or not. They have access to money and they have that capacity to buy off candidates. That has been going on, and that must be stopped. We thought we should highlight this for Zambians to see why we're opposed to Bill 7, which is now a reality, and the fruits are now being seen as to what the intention of the UPND was: corruption. And now that is being facilitated at a grand scale.
Because remember what
Yeah.
they said about the definition of corruption.
Yeah.
It should not be reduced to the mayor receiving or giving of bribes, but it will involve all actions, which are done in private interest as opposed to public interest. And they'll come by way of policy, administration, and legislation. So you can actually see that the particular amendment to Article 52 was to pave way for corruption. Because you see, the safeguard under Article 52 was such that if a candidate withdrew, we went back for fresh nominations.
Yes.
So as a political party, you had a fresh chance to present a different candidate, as it were. Now, because our friends were sitting on resources, failing to pay farmers, but they had enough money to buy councillors and candidates, they pushed that particular amendment in the Constitution, such that when a candidate withdraws, the elections to go ahead.
And they remain unopposed.
So that is, they legislated corruption. So that particular corruption is now facilitated by that law. That is why, when it comes to constitution making, the fundamental principles governing that is wide public participation. Had it been subjected to that public participation, the public would have objected to that particular amendment, because then they would have raised issues as we are experiencing them now. But they went through that bridge process and amended the Constitution to facilitate for the electoral malpractices or the corruption that is happening now. Yeah, so I thought that was very important, that some of these amendments were to facilitate for, they want to buy, they literally want to buy all the candidates out because they've got all the money. You know what they say in Pemba, Ushiku filio mukote chimbwi anyemfui. So on one hand, you have got so much money in illicit financial flows amounting to $10 billion. And then on the other hand, there are these people are moving in sacks of money, enticing candidates. We don't know whether there's a relationship between the two. But it's very much still, I wish Kumukoti Alua
Well, we have some messages from Facebook. One of them, the question says, what plans do they have for the suffering taxi drivers who have suffered since online taxi apps came into the country? That's one. The other one is from Mwewa Piri, also from Facebook. What are your views on the database they keep referring to for government employment? And Prince Ndoi says, Mr. President, we thank God for you coming together. We're behind you. My only question is, what will happen to the many illegal laws passed by Parliament hastily in the last days before dissolution and not assented to by President Abednego? So you can respond to those ones.
Yeah, so when we look at the drivers, we are looking at the truck driver, we're looking at the bus driver, we're looking at taxi drivers and Yango drivers together. We've had a number of presentations. We'll start with the truck drivers. Truck drivers go through a lot. An average truck driver carrying copper is carrying $500,000 worth of cargo, for instance, and that cargo is insured. But then you find that the driver behind the wheels, his life is actually not insured. Many of these drivers have lost their lives in these bad roads, and their families just lose out like that. So we want to make sure that we look at the welfare of these drivers, and come up with regulations that will ensure that the lives of these drivers are also insured, so that they don't lose out completely. Then you remember their daily allowances from what they used to get before 2021.
It's
And
$15.
it's now
No,
$15 from 25. So
Mm.
want to assure the truck drivers that the $25, if not more, will be reinstated so that we can protect the conditions of service for these truck drivers. So to be able to deal with a number of these things, we are coming up with what we're calling sectoral minimum wages or sectoral minimum conditions. So as opposed to dealing with them one by one, including the taxi drivers, including the Yango drivers. So we'll look at it per sector. So if Chisha or Pizzi, you want to go into business of taxis, you should be aware to say, if I employ a driver, this is what I need to give them, because it's a prescribed, these are prescribed conditions. That's what government is able to do, to protect them, as it were. But of course, they come with a number of empowerment programs. We have empowerment programs that will introduce drive to own, for instance. These are for younger drivers, taxi drivers, as it were. We will also get back to the fuel tankers. This is a program that was started in 2021. And our friends in the UPND came and grabbed all those fuel tankers from the youths. They procured some more fuel tankers, and they shared these tankers amongst themselves. They were using the proceeds from these tankers to fund by-elections, as it were. The fuel tanker program was a very good program for the youths. So we want to extend it. The fuel tanker program will not only be for the youths, but also for the truck drivers through the association. The idea is that we want Zambians to own assets through empowerment programs. We have a number of drivers under an association that have been driving trucks, some of them for over 20 years. There's no possibility of them even owning a truck of their own, but through the fuel tanker program that was started for the youth, we've agreed with Vice President that we'll extend it to the truck drivers under that association. We know that they'll be able to grow their fleet along the way once they're given that initial empowerment. So it's a matter that we will follow up at some point to understand where those fuel tankers are. We know that under Ministry of Youth and Sport, 3 or 4 politicians shared over 100 tankers, and the youths have not gotten their dividends from these tankers in 2022. So to promise the drivers, yes, the truck drivers, the taxi drivers, and somebody asked about the illegal laws. I think Vice President to be able to tackle that.
Perhaps worse on that, Mr. President, something we discussed, how that the truck drivers, their lives are threatened. Look at Congo. Most of our drivers are dying when they go into the Congo.
Yeah.
And you remember the president was on TV saying that he's a chief spy and he does make calls to different presidents of different countries to inquire about certain things. I was waiting for an opportunity where he said, I called my brother Tshisekedi to say, how are we going to sort out this issue to do with truck drivers? Yes, because even if we're going to say $300 per truck driver per night, it doesn't stop the killings in the Congo. What are our relationships like with our neighbors? We want to restore the relationship that Zambia had with its neighbors. We want to work with our neighbors, have good relations with them, so that when we have such problems, we're able to sit at the table and say, listen, our drivers are dying in your country. How best can we secure them? How best can you come in to ensure that our drivers are safe? How best can we work on certain routes or roads that benefit both countries and work with on those together, the way we did for Kazungula and the way we should for the Pedico Road? We need to be able to look at the warfare of the Zambian truck drivers in that regard, and make use of our being chief spy to enhance the lives of the Zambians and not for vindictiveness or anything else. Illegal laws. Obviously, we have to deal with the issues of illegal laws. They are illegal to the extent that they go against the provisions of the Constitution that guarantees the rights of Zambians, and we should be able to deal with those. The Constitutional Court and the High Court, we expected them to rise to the challenge when some of these matters are being brought before them, to be able to be proactive to protect the rights of the Zambians. But the judiciary is at its lowest, the executive at its worst, National Assembly at its worst. We need to restore the integrity of these institutions of governance and just restore this independence of the judiciary, independence of a judge. We have made it so easy to fire a judge such that every judge is afraid to write a judgment. They probably have to consult and say, Ione Kabwanji. You see that because they are threatened with being chased or indeed being told to rule in a particular way, and that should not be the case. The database issue, Mr. President, I think that's a very important issue because it's not even a legal issue that is there.
Yeah, in fact,
Uh,
I wanted to just comment on what you said.
yes.
The chief spy.
Yes.
So the chief spy came back to the Zambia